Now, normally, I'm someone that likes to promote from within. And one of the things that is a frustration of mine is that British coaches, English coaches, don't really seem to get that much of an opportunity. So I was quite pleased when I read the news report that Nuno Espirito Santo, who, when he came in, obviously it was a couple of days' notice to the Everton game, so he hadn't really got his backroom staff organised. So in the sort of like the 2 days prior, it was announced that he would be assisted for the Everton game by some coaches that we had in the academy, namely two former West Ham players in Mark Robson and Steve Potts, and Gerard Prendeville and Billy Lapine. Now, I didn't think to myself that they would be the long-term coaches. I held out hope that one of the four would be retained within the coaching setup in Nuno's backroom staff. I probably held out. It would have been nice for it to be either Mark or Steve to sort of get that gig, because obviously they're former West Ham players. Indeed, Steve is a former West Ham captain. But anyway, it was quite a surprise to me when the story was announced that all four of them are going to be Nuno's backroom lieutenants. But then there's another story that cropped up and now makes me a little bit more concerned that there's something else going on. And I want to get your thoughts on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to drop a like on this stream. Comment section is below for you to get your thoughts on as well. Why not think about sharing this onto your social media platforms? And finally, just check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, click subscribe. It takes a second of your time, free of charge, and we don't get your data sensitive information. It just simply grows the channel into something bigger. Thanks for your support. So, as I say, all four of the coaches from the academy are being retained by Nuno, which was a surprise. But at the same time, as I say, the fact that it's some homegrown coaches that are getting an opportunity is something I'm actually quite pleased by. But then I saw another story a little bit earlier today as I record this, which makes me think that it might not just be as simple as Nuno thinks that the four coaches I mentioned are tip top. I'm sure they are. But as I say, to retain all four and to not bring in any coaches, because let's be honest, most managers, most head coaches have trusted lieutenants that they probably have throughout their years as a coach. I mean, look at, for example, David Moyes. Look at Graham Potter. You know, David Moyes had Alan Irvine, he had Billy McKinley, Graham Potter had Billy Reid. So yeah, you usually find that managers have backroom staff that they tend to sort of bring with them from club to club through their careers. And then I read this story that we've had to pay out, and I guess it's not really, when I stop and think of it, it's not really a surprise. You probably work it out and go, well, duh. But I'm beginning to wonder whether there's a connection between the two. Now, obviously, we've, in the last 9 months or so, we've waved goodbye to two different managers. And the story I hear is that in the compensation that we've had to pay to Julien Lopetegui, Graham Potter, and their respective backroom staffs, the compensation runs into around about 10 million quid is the figure that I'm hearing. Now, what's 10 million quid between Premier League clubs, I hear you say, and you'd be completely correct. But I wonder if that's possibly the reason behind, really, why Nuno is using all four of the academy coaches. It just seems a little bit strange. It just seems a little bit out of kilter with what I think most people are used to seeing when a manager turns up at a Premier League club. Now, I then have to ask myself the question that if we're potentially, and I stress the word potentially, because I'm putting 2 and 2 together and I might be making 36. But if the reason we've retained all 4 academy coaches in the first team, and Nuno's not, by the sounds of things, bringing in any of his own people to work alongside him, does that possibly mean as well that if we're potless as far as trying to bring in Nuno's sort of tried and trusted lieutenants, is that possibly going to mean as well that we're struggling with funds in the January transfer window? Because I tell you this, if that's the case, that's huge alarm bells ringing there. Because one of the things that I will say is we need reinforcements, and I think that's fairly obvious. You know, we need a commanding, dominating, physical presence as a centre-back. I'm going to give Michael Levy Jr. a shout out at this point, my colleague on Hammers Chat's Patreons, Overland and Seaward. He's got some great opinions, some great offerings on what he thinks about football. Now, he did a video a little bit earlier on the Hammers Chat forum channel. It was a really great watch, and I'd recommend you go and have a look at it yourself. And he asked the question about whether we've got the firepower to stay up. I actually look at it from a different angle. I don't think firepower is our problem. I think our problem is keeping clean sheets. Because if you can keep a clean sheet, you're guaranteed at least a point, aren't you? It's not rocket science. And it's why pretty much any manager through the years that's worth their salt, if they're going to concentrate on getting anything right, it's the defence. Now, as I say, and then I come back full circle to where I've started, because I've gone off on a couple of tangents here, I realise that, but if we join it all together, as I say, the 4 coaches being retained from the academy, the £10 million of compensation that we've had to shell out for the last 2 managers and their backroom staff, I think they're connected. I think it's, listen, Nuno, we'd like you to bring in your own people if we could, but we seriously can't afford it right now. So these 4 is the only show in town. Okay, maybe that'll be looked at again. As I say, don't get me wrong, it's pleasing that we've got academy coaches that can step up, but it just strikes me as a little bit strange that all 4 of them and none of Nuno's sort of trusted guys seem to be part of the plan going forwards. Not at the moment anyway. That might change. But like I say, then does that mean we're struggling as far as money's concerned elsewhere within the club? Very concerning, very concerning. What do you think? I mean, are you pleased about the fact that all 4 academy coaches have been retained? Do you think that it's a little bit strange, like I do, that Nuno's not bringing in any coaches that he's had a history with, a backstory? Do you think that ultimately the reason why this is happening is because there's a lack of finances to do it, because of the payments that we've had to make to the last 2 managers and their respective backroom staffs? And are you a little bit concerned that it might have more sinister implications ahead of the January transfer window, which we need to do some business there? I think it's as plain as the nose on your face. But what do you think? Get your comments in the section below, and I'll try and answer as many of your comments as I possibly can. Please don't forget to drop a like on the stream, comment, as I say, in the section below, share this on your social media platforms, and click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified of any new content. This doesn't cost you any money. It's free of charge. It takes you a second of your time. We don't get any of your data sensitive information. It just simply grows the channel into something bigger than it is now. And I thank you for your time. And on the screen now, you can see a couple of extra bits of content. Have a look at them, and the little button in the middle for you to subscribe as well. Take care. Come on, you irons.